I gazed intently at the video playing on my smartphone. It displayed scenes from my home, particularly our bedroom, my husband's and mine. An app on my phone streamed footage from our security cameras, revealing my husband with another woman. Their intimate proximity suggested more than friendship or mere acquaintance. Then, I heard voices through the footage. "You sure she doesn't suspect anything?" One voice queried. "Yeah, I've been following your instructions exactly. It's foolproof. She's clueless, totally believes me," the other responded confidently. They laughed together, then playfully tumbled onto the bed. I was speechless because that woman was none other than my own sister. I am Nancy Hadley, 50 years old, my husband David, who turns 55 this year, and I have been married for 2 decades. We don't have children, and for years it was just us two. However, our lives changed dramatically about a decade ago when David was diagnosed with early-onset dementia. Over time, his condition worsened, impacting his work and everyday life significantly. 10 years after his diagnosis, David had to retire due to his declining abilities. We sought help from my sister, who operates a care facility. She arranged for David's tests, which confirmed his diagnosis. Now, we have a caregiver from my sister's facility visit twice a week to assist us. On the day our regular caregiver, Ms. Johnson, arrived, she asked, "Nancy, how's David doing?" She had brought someone with her, my sister. "He's your husband, after all." "I worry too," my sister remarked. Despite her busy schedule, she frequently checked in on us, caring for David like a brother, as she always wanted one. Thanks to my sister and Ms. Johnson's support, I can go to work every day with peace of mind, knowing David is in good hands. While I went out to work, my gratitude towards my sister and Ms. Johnson was immense. Without my income, our household finances would crumble. However, they couldn't assist on weekends, leaving me solely responsible for caregiving. Balancing work during the week with David's care on weekends left me with little time for myself. I didn't fully realize my fatigue until a nurse, who knew me well from David's regular checkups, noticed. We had known each other for nearly a decade, and she could sense even the smallest signs of exhaustion. "Mrs. Hadley, caregiving for your husband is undoubtedly challenging, but you need time to rest on your own," she advised gently. "You're right. I understand. I could ask Anne and Miss Johnson for help in emergencies, but I hate to burden them further," I replied. During one of David's checkups, the nurse mentioned a new addition to their staff, a nurse from a specialized dementia hospital in New York. "Maybe she can offer some assistance," she suggested, pointing in the nurse's direction. I turned and couldn't believe my eyes. It was Amy, my best friend from college. We embraced, celebrating our unexpected reunion. Amy explained that she had returned to our hometown after her children grew up and she divorced her husband. "Let me know when you're free for coffee," she suggested warmly. When David emerged from his examination, Amy greeted him with a smile. "This is my husband David," I introduced. "We haven't seen each other since your wedding," Amy said, bending down to David's eye level. "I'm looking forward to helping care for you." David smiled in response, and Amy looked at him with a meaningful expression, which caught my attention. Sensing my confusion, Amy stood up with a smile. "I've cared for many patients like your husband," she explained kindly. After waving goodbye to Amy, we had several chance encounters, like when picking up David's medication or during his health setbacks. Each time, Amy's concerned glances didn't escape me, but I played it off. A few months post our reunion, while at the hospital with David for an appointment, Amy approached me solemnly. "Nancy, can we talk for a moment?" she asked. As David went in for his examination, we found ourselves in a counseling room. "How's it going? Taking care of David? Are you okay?" Amy inquired, her tone serious. I'd opened up about David's health and the toll it was taking on me. Amy listened intently, appearing genuinely concerned. Then, unexpectedly, she began with, "Actually, Nancy." What followed was shocking. Amy recounted a recent encounter about a week before we reunited. While shopping in town, she spotted Anne, my sister. and a man she recognized. When Amy approached, Anne introduced the man as her boyfriend. It wasn't until we met again at the hospital that Amy realized the man was David, my husband. I was stunned. "No wonder you looked so taken aback that day," Amy remarked. She had seen Anne and David together in town. A week before we reunited, David seemed completely oblivious to Amy's presence. I looked different back then, longer hair, glasses. I probably appeared unrecognizable to him. But something else troubled me deeply. According to Amy, David's behavior at the hospital seemed unnaturally composed for someone with dementia. She mentioned it mirrored the actions of someone she knew from her former workplace, a person feigning dementia. The man I saw in town was walking confidently, responding clearly, appearing perfectly healthy. Could Amy have mistaken him? I suggested. "I don't think so. You know David has those distinctive moles under his right eye, right?" Amy replied. "The man I saw had them too. It's quite a unique feature. I'm sorry for speaking about your husband that way," she added, sensing her remark might have been inappropriate. Amy's observation lingered. Could David have been pretending to have dementia for a decade and be having an affair with Anne? The thought was absurd, but Amy was trustworthy. "Honestly, I don't think this hospital is very good," Amy confessed. "The doctors here aren't great, and there are rumors. Doesn't it seem odd they have so many patients?" Struck by her words, I decided to take action. I bought a home security camera and discreetly placed it in our living room and bedroom to monitor while I was at work. Viewing the footage on my smartphone during breaks revealed a stark contrast. David's behavior was markedly different from what he showed me. He was neither lost nor confused about his surroundings. He was living a seemingly normal life. Furthermore, when Ms. Johnson, the caregiver I had entrusted to look after David, arrived, there was no indication of her providing care. Furthermore, I discovered that Anne had been visiting my house frequently while I was away. Their conversations were captured clearly on the footage. "You're not getting caught pretending to have dementia, right, David?" "Yeah, because I'm doing just as Anne suggests. Pretending not to know the date or where things are is working perfectly. Pretending not to write or go outside, thinking it's day when it's actually night, would be good too. Nancy is a trusting person, so I don't think she'll suspect anything. Is Miss Johnson okay? Won't she spill the beans?" "She's fine. She's a single mom with a kid, so she needs money. I've been giving her a little higher salary, and she's been keeping quiet." After laughing together, they would flirt and head to the bedroom. I was left speechless when I saw the footage. I couldn't believe my sister and husband were conspiring behind my back, but the evidence was undeniable. A few days later, feeling compelled to confront Miss Johnson, who had been caring for David, I arranged to meet her the following Saturday. I visited her apartment and showed her the footage. She looked resigned and apologized with tears in her eyes, admitting, "What's in this footage is the truth. I've been deceiving you all this time, and I'm truly sorry. I don't have a license, and I was struggling to find another job. I had no choice but to go along with what Anne said because she hired me with such attractive terms." Despite her remorse, Miss Johnson provided me with copies of receipts, daily reports, and her diary from that time. No matter how much I needed money, what I did was unacceptable as a human being. "I am really, really sorry," she reiterated. Armed with this evidence and testimony, I decided to gather more proof. After visiting related parties and hearing their accounts, I consulted with my lawyer and planned to confront David and Anne at the scene of their affair. On a typical weekday, pretending to go to work as usual, I waited near my house. When Anne arrived, and it seemed like the right moment, I returned home, catching them in the act. They panicked, unable to escape. "I know everything now, David," I said coldly. David began to confess hurriedly, blaming Anne for seducing him into the deceitful plan. Anne went hysterical, raging against David for trying to duck responsibility. "Shut up! You're the one who kept pushing me into this," David retorted. Unable to tolerate their bickering, I intervened. "That's enough. Both of you get out." I threw them, along with their clothes and Anne's purse, out of the living room window and shut it. They banged on the window, pleading and explaining, but I ignored them. When they persisted, I messaged them on WhatsApp, warning them to leave quietly or face the police. For a few days, they remained silent. Afterward, they continued to come to the house and send messages on WhatsApp, which became irritating. So I made the decision to sell the house and move to a weekly rental apartment. In fact, when David was diagnosed with dementia, I had preemptively changed the title of our jointly owned house to my name. David, who had retired and could no longer manage the mortgage, made this change necessary. I anticipated potential difficulties if a dementia patient retained decision-making authority in an emergency. Fortunately, I was able to sell the house for more than expected and purchased an apartment with the quietly saved funds. Unexpected as the situation was, I must say, good job to past Nancy. Following the divorce, I also claimed division of assets against David. Regardless of David's ability to pay, this statement declared, "You did this to me. I'll never forgive or forget it." Subsequently, I heard through the grapevine that after divorcing me, David remarried and now resides in her house. However, it appears that their relationship is not thriving. I assume David and Anne were swept up in the excitement of their affair. Once married, they could no longer sustain the carefree lover lifestyle. Living together for better or worse, they must face the reality of their situation. Though I'm indifferent, they seem to have received their due. Thanks to Ms. Johnson's revelation, Anne's facility lost its license and closed. The facility struggled to repay its debts, having borrowed extensively from the bank during its opening. This seems like a fitting consequence for a sister who stole her sister's husband. The dubious doctor who issued the false diagnosis faced trouble as well. His staff, including Amy, quit one after another, leading to the closure of his clinic. Apparently, he had been issuing false medical reports for unsavory sources in return for patient referrals. This revelation shocked me, highlighting the extent of some doctors' misconduct. Reflecting on these events, I realized my fault lay in being too trusting. I accepted my sister's word and the doctor's claims at face value. Amy pointed out that I'm too kind and trusting. While I don't like to doubt people, I've learned the importance of scrutinizing information and thinking for myself. On a brighter note, Amy has found a new job at a large general hospital in a neighboring town. Her work experience at a New York hospital earned her the trust of colleagues, and she's enjoying her new role. Following Amy's recommendation, Ms. Johnson also found work at the hospital cafeteria, which Amy finds adorable. Speaking of adorable, Amy's eyes sparkle at the sight of a puppy playing with a ball. This male miniature dachshund joined my home about a month ago and has become my cherished companion, soothing me after long workdays. Amy visits more often under the guise of seeing the puppy, but I know she's concerned about me. While I've lost my husband, I cherish the enjoyable time with my best friend. Embracing a single life and the company of a fellow woman doesn't sound too bad after all.